over the summer at the moment.
Hello? Hello? Yeah. Right, we're away. I need to say, sorry, I told you I was rusty. I need to say this is not about me. Well, it is about me, but it's about him. Because it's been such a, I was going to say a pig of a time. Do you mind me saying that?
You've said it now.
I've said it. You know I'm only a boy from the bush, shepherd's bush, so we don't speak proper down there. Although I did have elocution lessons once upon a time before I started teaching. They said, no, you've got to talk better than that. I can talk nicely, but I have to concentrate. This is all about God, honestly. It'll only take a few minutes, I think. I've written it down because I don't want to forget anything. This is what you might call an updated testimony. When I was a kid, when I was a youngster, everybody gave their testimony. Do you remember that? I know people give their testimony still when they're baptized, yeah? But everybody gave their testimony all the time when I was, it seemed to me. So I want to share my updated testimony with you this morning, if I may. It's the story of my long walk with Jesus and what's been happening recently. So 74 years ago, I was given birth to, although God knew about that as well, because he knits us in the womb, doesn't he? Yeah? You know that passage? I need some nods, because otherwise I'm not sure if, I'm wasting my time. My parents were, just to give you a bit of background, my parents were good, moral people. I learnt a lot from them. And my life has been bookmarked by God to be a good carer. Because when I was just 5 years of age, I don't think many of you know this, my sister Sally was born. She's deceased now. She was born totally deaf, seriously disabled, and I mean seriously, with cerebral palsy. She was a rhesus baby. It's all to do with a mismatch of parents' blood. I'm sure you know that. So I was okay because I was the first one, but Sally was the second one, and she wasn't okay. So from a very young age, I helped my parents to care for her and to get her going a bit. So skipping on. I met my Jackie in 1965. She's not with me today for obvious reasons, because it would be inappropriate. She was she was standing in the greengrocer's doorway. It was shut because it was a Sunday night, and it was the top of my road. So I used to see her there, and I thought she was giving out tracts. You remember tracts? Yeah, little messages about God. And in those days, people used to take them mostly. And I thought, she's okay, I could do that. I could give out tracts with her. Because she, it was the 60s, and she was in a miniskirt and all that. I won't go into that. She got told off for wearing a miniskirt by her Sunday school teacher. But just before that, more seriously, the bit about meeting Jackie was serious. I met Jesus. I was, I was only about 13 or 14, and I committed my life to him. And it was the Boys Brigade officers and Billy Graham, a sort of mix of the both, that got me going. And I know most of you, and I know most of you are believers, but I just want to shout it out, really, that we all need to meet Jesus. If you haven't met Jesus yet, well, open your heart to Jesus. So anyway, I did, and I was baptized. And my family didn't know anything about, can you still hear me all right? My family didn't know anything about that. They knew about baptism as a baby, but they didn't know anything about believers' baptism. So I was baptized, and I remember my little old granny came along, and I want to ask you, seriously, because I know there's somebody here, at least one person here, looking around, that hasn't been baptized. You need to be baptized, okay? There's no two ways about it. And we do it properly, you know, the full job. Although it's a bit limited with the virus at the moment, isn't it? But expect more than just a dip in the water, because then it's public and people know that you're wanting to change your life around. It's a public witness. And Jesus did it. And if Jesus did it, if he did it, I'm sorry, I shall get emotional as we go along here. If he did it, then we've got to do it. He's our leader. We follow him. So I'm asking you seriously, if you haven't been baptized, why not? You need to do it. Because you'll be a terrific witness to everybody. However old you are, it's not horrible, is it? No. And we warm the water up and all that. My mum was worried about me. A lot of people worry about me, but my mum was worried about me because I was getting too religious. And she sent my dad up. I remember it well. My dad was a quiet sort of man. She obviously instructed him to come up to my bedroom and knocked on the door. And, because my mother never used to knock on the door. Used to annoy me, but my dad did knock on the door. And he was under instruction to say, David, I was called David then, you can do all this when you're old. But I'd already done it, so it was too late anyway. Don't wait till you're old. That's my message to everybody. And I'm trying to encourage my grandchildren to listen to this message, because they don't come to church very much. We've got 6 of them. You know some of the rest of the story. I became a primary school teacher here in Ipswich. We came up from London. We haven't got a clue about Ipswich. We'd no idea where we were going, really. But there was a house, a bungalow available, a new bungalow at Little Blakenham. And we moved in, and we had our first child there. Second one was born in the hospital. And then, as time went on, you know that I switched career. And that was totally down to God. I was at Cliff Lane Primary School for a long time, too long, because I was deputy head there, and it was a large school, and I kept trying for headships, and they didn't want me because I had too much to say for myself, you know. Well, that's what, you know that. I didn't say the right thing, so I didn't tick their boxes. So I used to go into Holywells Park of a lunchtime to escape the kids and the staff, who were mostly sitting there knitting all through lunchtime, so it didn't really appeal to me much. And I used to pray on the bench. I used to pray. Well, sometimes I actually spoke it out loud if there was nobody around. I nearly said, for goodness sake, please, for God's sake, please, take me out of teaching. I'm fed up. I won't get political, but it was the era of Margaret Thatcher, say no more. I was fed up with teaching. I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do with teaching. I was being instructed. I was being channeled. I'm no good when people tell me what to do. I like to think I'm doing the right thing, and I try to do the right thing. So I thought, well, he's not listening. Nothing's happening. I'm still teaching. I'm still at this school over the road. I've got to go back there in a minute. Otherwise, I should be late for the afternoon session. He's not listening. I became a church rep for Tear Fund at Burlington Baptist, which was where we were worshipping. And I loved it. I really enjoyed it. Because my heart is with not just community here in Britain, but community around the world. I like to think of myself, it sounds a bit poserish, but I like to think of myself as an internationalist. And so it was the right thing for me to do. It was voluntary. And I used to annoy all the people at Burlington who belonged to the Baptist Missionary Society, because I used to put all my Tear Fund leaflets out and they thought I was in opposition, which was wrong, but there we go. And my Jackie worked alongside me with Tear Fund. We worked from home, from Salehurst Road, where we were living. And we had a little office. And we looked after over 300 volunteers across East Anglia. Jackie did all the admin. She still, even today, she still remembers all the names of every volunteer. Honestly, she does. Anyway, then it began, didn't it? Last year. The thing that cannot be named. Oh, sorry, I'm misreading. I'm misreading. Well, that was a thing that cannot be named as well. I meant to say, then it began. 8 years ago, almost exactly. We were away on holiday, Jackie and I, and I realised she was repeating herself. Now, I need to say that Alzheimer's is not just a memory issue. It's much, much bigger than that. But I thought, hello, we're in trouble here. And of course, you know, we're now 8 years later, and then it did begin, the virus. And Jackie was already deteriorating mentally. And in the things she did and the things she didn't do, and the haphazard way, she'd always been very careful with things. I used to find knives and forks in all sorts of places, and clothing. Well, you know what I'm trying to say. So it got worse and worse. The virus came. It was something else that Jackie's never wanted to name Alzheimer's. And I don't really want to name the virus either. They're two dreadful things. It took me, just to backtrack slightly, it took me a year to get Jackie to go to the doctor with me, to be identified as having Alzheimer's. And 8 years ago, it was early onset Alzheimer's. It's not early onset now. It's big time. It's big time. And she hates it. She absolutely hates it. I'm not allowed to talk about it. I've never been allowed to talk about it. Between us, we've covered it up. Some of you might be surprised that it's 8 years ago that this started. That's because we covered it up for a long time. Before I got her to the doctors, she cried and shouted at me. She didn't want to go. I made her go. I had to have it identified so that we could know what we were dealing with. And I've read up about it a lot since then. As I said to my youngest daughter the other day on the telephone, you know, we've got two daughters. One lives in Surrey with her family. The other one, Alison, lives across the road. They're both Christian ladies. Alison doesn't go to church, and I'd like you to pray about that, please. Which means her Kids don't go to church. Well, the eldest one's 20 soon. Ruth is a little bit more definite with her faith. I said to my youngest daughter just the other day, well, I cried, I wept on the phone. I said, I've lost my Jackie. I've lost your mum. She's gone. She's gone. She's a shadow of her real self now. But she's still my Jackie. Now she's my disturbed Jackie. And during the lockdown, everything worsened for us 100-fold, and I do mean it. You weren't able to help me much because we were all stuck indoors, weren't we? I had one or two people from the fellowship here come to the door, and through that year with flowers and food, and so I couldn't ask my daughter to help us over the road because her husband had the virus really badly. He would have been in hospital if he'd had it any longer. So I carried on shopping on my own, which was difficult because I had to leave Jackie at home. I became really depressed. I've only had depression once, and that was at Cliff Lane Primary School. Really depressed last year. I had dark days and dark thoughts. I had suicidal thoughts. I thought, yeah, that'd be the easy way out if I just do something silly. But of course that then leaves a mess for everybody else, doesn't it? So Jackie's symptoms worsened. We were all alone. We felt all alone anyway. But you know, although we were locked in, God never left us. He never left me. Even though I was truly a 24/7 carer, I used to stretch out my right hand at night when Jackie was asleep or when the room was dark. I used to stretch out my hand and I could feel his power. And then as things got better, you know, from about Easter this year, wasn't it? Or maybe it was May or June, I don't know. You came good here, our friends here. And now I've got a little group of ladies and one or two men too who've helped me. I won't name names, but they know who they are. And things are better for me. And you know, God sensed that. He knew that. He knows our story, ahead of the game. And he sent his Holy Spirit to me. He did, really. I'm not making it up. Again, I used to lead Alpha here, and the Holy Spirit was very real to me when I was leading Alpha. He wanted to assure me that I still had a future. I thought it was all over for me. I thought my life was finished. I'd just be a 24/7 carer. But you know, in Jeremiah, if I can find it, I thought I had a marker in it. I learnt the whole Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. You know, there's a rhyme, isn't there? Anyway, I'm losing track. I know it comes after Isaiah, but I can't find anything here. Oh, that's the one. In Jeremiah 29 and verse 11, you'll know this verse. You'll know this verse. For I, God, know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. This is all of us, not me. It's all of us. Plans to give you a hope and a future. That's the verse. Thank you. And he'll give you, if you're feeling down, and I've already said, I know what it's like to feel down. It's dreadful. He'll still be with you. He'll give you a hope and a future too. He promises in Joshua, it's another one to try and find now. Joshua, Judges, Ruth, Samuel, Book of Kings, Kings, Chronicles. Well, I can't do it. Oh, here we are. Oh, here we are. I got it. Joshua 1, verse 5. This was all to do with, Joshua and Moses. In verse 5 he says, no one will be able to stand up against you. That's all of you and me. All the days of your life. He was talking to Joshua. As I was with Moses, said God, so I will be with you. I will never leave you. I'll never leave you. I'll never leave you. I'll never leave me. I'll never forsake you. He will never give up on us. Even if we give up on him, he will still hang on to us. He will still be there. So I'm simply saying, in conclusion, hold out your hand to him in faith. He believes in you, believe in him deeply, not just tinkering around the edges. Believe in him with your guts, with your whole self. Get baptized if you're not baptized. Join an Alpha course. We've probably got one in the autumn, have we? New Year. Join an Alpha course. Those who've done it, and there's some people here in the room who've done it and helped do it. It's tremendous. It helped me as a mature Christian. It'll help you. Be his faithful servant. Pray. Pray to God. Try and read your Bible. Sometimes I lapse on that. He wants to speak to you. He wants to be with you. He wants you to walk with him. And if you're not sure about it all, well, I don't know, there's a lot of mature Christians in the room here, but if you're not sure, speak to Hazel or speak to me. And that's what God wanted me to share today. Thank you. Thank you for helping us.